Okay, so we have a whole classroom of people, but I'm only just the side. But if you want to just go ahead and just introduce yourself, and then we can like go through the questions that I sent you. But just go ahead and give an introduction of who you are, how you got where you are, and all that. So we're excited.
Absolutely. Happy Monday, guys. My name's Miranda Cooper. I'm the football dietitian and director of sports nutrition for the University of Mississippi, specifically working with the football team over here at Ole Miss football. If you see me turning my head a little bit, I've got a big old wall of windows over here. And a lot of my guys have just gotten out of a walkthrough, so they're just wanting to ask questions and everything. So I'm sorry about that if you see me just staring off into the distance. Well, a little bit about me. Started out here actually at the University of Mississippi studying nutrition of all things 2014 to 2018. I never actually knew that sports nutrition was a thing whenever I started out in this field and everything, or even at the university itself until my sophomore year. And one of my friends kind of pulled me into what we do specifically here at the football facility, being a volunteer. And that's where I found my love for sports nutrition as a whole. Initially, I was just, one of my friends came up to me and was like, look, I do this. I make PB&Js, I make smoothies, like I talk to football players, like get to listen in on what they do, what they like to eat, all of that kind of stuff. And I kind of fell in love with that. So afterwards, I spent about 2 or 3 years volunteering here as kind of like one of my volunteers working with the football team, as well as some of the other sports as well. So basketball, baseball, all of that. And then when I graduated, I our how we did things and everything back in around 2018 is a little bit different. We didn't have to have a master's degree and all these things, but I went ahead and I took about 2 years off working as a wellness coordinator back in Dallas, Texas. That's where I'm from. And from there, after spending about 2 years back at home, decided to get matched to a dietetic internship over in Houston, Texas, Texas Women's University. So they do have a sports nutrition concentration at the Denton location, but I got matched to the Houston location. So I kind of thought, oh, well, this is just life. Like sports isn't the way that I'm going to go. So I kind of put it in the back of my mind and opened myself to different opportunities, which I definitely recommend for anybody that is looking into nutrition as a whole, or even sports nutrition. Never close out your mind to different fields within nutrition as a whole. Because I honestly, I fell in love with renal dietetics, which is studying kidneys and kidney functions and working at dialysis centers. From there, I got my master's degree, got my dietetic internship done and shadowing done. And then I got a call from one of my friends at LSU asking if I would be interested in a sports nutrition internship. And I had put sports in the back of my mind. I had no idea. I even had a job lined up somewhere else to become kind of just a nutrition coordinator, working at a homeless shelter, actually. And decided, you know what? LSU, they just won a national championship. That was like when I applied, it was like 2020. So they just won a national championship in 2019. I was like, what the heck? If I don't go and take this leap and just go and expand my knowledge and just put myself out of my comfort zone, I'm just never going to be able to get into sports ever again. Might as well just try it and just see what happens. And that's where I kind of fell in love with it yet again. So went to LSU for 2 seasons under 2 different dietitians, left there right after that, got a director role from an internship into a director role at Arizona, was there for about 8 months, helped coordinate their program, and then moved over to actually this role here at 2020, I think it was August of 2023, I believe. That is when I came over this direction. So kind of been bouncing around all over the place, and didn't expect to come back here from studying here in 2018, but I came back and things have been fantastic. We've been doing great when it comes to our team, been able to build a program here, which is fantastic, and hopefully it just continues to grow. What kind of questions do you guys have?
That's awesome. Thank you so much for all of that information.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question that we kind of like have submitted is just like, what is your goal as a sports dietitian? So,
Mhm.
what is your job every day when you walk in? Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to achieve?
I think the overall arching goal is make these guys better every single day when it comes to getting them to be able to get where they need to be with their body composition, with their weight goals, with their just normal nutrition goals, but also just making them better people too. At the end of the day, these guys are, sometimes they're only here for a few months before they go to the NFL. Sometimes we get them for 4 years. So you never know how much time you're going to be able to get with these players. So especially with how the transfer portal is and everything like that. So for me, it's really how can I provide the most and the best kind of education for them and interventions for them when it comes to the nutrition side of things that can help them in the here and now, that will also translate to something they can continue on later on in life. So even past the NFL, because at the end of the day, there's gonna be a time where they're not gonna be playing football anymore. And so I want them to be able to look back at kind of the knowledge that I'm providing them, and they can fall back on that. So they're feeling good. They're feeling like they're just the best versions of themselves.
Awesome. Okay, so what does a normal day look like to you? So like when you get to work, what do you have to set up, and
Yeah.
maybe even like a game day, just things like
Yeah.
that.
So every day and this is my favorite part of this job, is there isn't a normal day every single day. Like whenever it comes to our schedules, whenever it comes to what nutrition does, whenever it comes to just like a football game, like every day is completely different just based off of what these guys are doing. So like a day like today is a walkthrough day for our players. So what we do intervention wise, if it were coming off of a game day weekend, would be completely different from what we would do on a practice day on Wednesday and on a game day or a Friday evening. So I'll kind of walk you guys through two different scenarios. Let's go through a practice day, which will be tomorrow. That's where we do a lot of nutrition interventions. I see the guys a ton on those days. So morning time, coming in probably around 5 o'clock in the morning, just checking some emails, doing some notes from the previous day, making sure I'm just prepped and ready to go. Sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes I'm rolling out of bed, just trying to make life work. I've got a 4-month-old, so I'm just trying to keep everything together at this point in time. So it can range from 5 to 7 a.m., just depending. And we have breakfast check in the morning. And so our morning block for practice is probably we start practice around 9:45. It doesn't end until noon. And they've got meetings right before that, breakfast right before that. So breakfast time is a significant time away from that practice. So I'm at breakfast making sure that these guys, who many of them have not been trained to eat breakfast in the morning. I don't know if y'all just I was one of those athletes that was just like, why do I have to eat breakfast in the morning? My practice is in the afternoon. So I'm having to train these guys how to eat so that they're able to perform and outperform themselves every single day on that practice field. And I get a ton of guys that are really, really resistant to that, just because that's not something that they grew up doing. It's not something that I grew up doing. And it's very, very difficult to kind of get their buy-in. But after a while, and after kind of just touching base with them, making sure that they are kind of good, making sure that they are just checking in with them, we're able to kind of transition them into slowly adding things to their plate, whether that's getting them a smoothie, whether they're just adding cereal, whether they're adding oatmeal, and slowly getting that education piece in early in the morning. With anybody that might be sick or injured, I kind of talk to our athletic training department, and we kind of talk through everything every day when it comes to the medical side of those interventions. If they're going to be in the training room during practice, doing some additional exercises that'll burn calories, what kind of recovery do they need for that day based off of the kind of work that they're doing, even if they're not practicing? Do we have guys that are just not feeling good? Because it is, I've got even a scratchy throat right now. How are these guys feeling 24/7 whenever they're surrounded by tons of students all day, every day, from even in here to out on campus? So I kind of help out with those interventions, making sure that they're eating properly, hydrated, and just prep for practice. During their meetings, that's where I kind of help those interventions and help athletic training kind of move that along, just because that's the easier time for them to be able to eat, to be able to focus. After meetings, that's when we kind of get everything set up for practice, which is just a lot of little tiny touch points here and there throughout our entire center. We've got about 2 different fueling stations, so little areas where we provide snacks for our players within our facility here. One by the weight room and by their meeting rooms, and then others where we're like our main contact points for when they're going out to practice, so near their locker room for the most part. So during that point in time, I'm making sure that they're getting enough snacks, they're getting enough energy, getting enough hydration right before the time where they're hitting the field and going out and expending that energy. During practice, I'm out there on the field with them. I'm kind of walking around near the athletic trainers. I'm walking near the coaches, making sure I'm not getting run over by some of these guys because they're freaky fast, and they're also, some of them are 350 pounds. So trying to save my life there. And so I'm just there as a touch point for them, educating them, checking in with them, making sure, hey, are your muscles feeling fatigued? Like, are you feeling like you're hungry? Is your stomach upset? All of these different things that I have to translate to them as hunger cues or actual illnesses, or this could lead to a cramp later on. So I'm just there to make sure that these guys are taken care of during that time period. And practice is probably about 2 hours long. So it's a long period of time to go without eating. So I'm walking around with snacks, hydration, supplements, all of that kind of stuff to make sure that they're good. The afternoon is just spent making sure they're eating lunch, fueling up properly. Within an hour to 2 hours after that huge session. Sometimes we have lift afterwards, so making sure they're having protein shakes during that lift time. And then the rest of the evening is just making sure if anybody has questions for me, they can come into my office at any point in time. That's where I have many of my meetings, send out meal plans to guys, just checking in with athletic training and strength afterwards, after practice, to make sure that all the guys are good, because we do have some injuries that happen during that practice time. And then the evening is just they come back for meetings sometimes, or they'll come and watch film, and that's just another touch point. So some nights, especially practice nights, I don't leave here until around 7 o'clock. So I like to say that my job is, instead of a 9 to 5, it's definitely a 5 to 9 kind of deal. But I love every second of it. There's some windows throughout the day where I can go and get a lift in, take care of myself too, to make sure that you want to take care of yourself during the day to make sure that these guys are taken care of long term. But that's a typical practice day. Game day, it's all about how much carbs can I get these guys within a 24-hour period, because the majority of the time they're not eating that much. It's about making sure they are feeling good. Anyone that's been sick earlier in the week, we hydration test to make sure that they are optimally hydrated for that game, especially because it's a little hot here. So, and sometimes the stress gets to them, and the stress meaning they're not going to want to eat or drink, because they're just mentally just trying to focus on the game more than anything else. So I'm there to help out with those things. I'm there with them at the hotel. I'm there with them at every single meal and every single snack the night before and the day of. And then I'm here with them prepping, if it's a home game, prepping and making sure that they're taken care of and they're optimally hydrated and fueled to be able to get on that field. And then I'm again there on the sideline, walking down with snacks and electrolytes, hydration, everything, making sure those guys are good. And at that point, it's pretty much just all about making sure that they survive. So if you guys want to talk more about what that kind of stuff looks like, please feel free and ask as many questions as you want. That's my favorite thing to talk about.
Okay, I liked how you said like that your role is like has to do with if they're sick throughout the week or if something like cramps or something, because this kind of leads into our next question that we had was just like the scope of practice and how like you're able to assess them nutritionally as a dietitian, kind of in depending on like sickness states or disease states, and not just like basic nutrition knowledge. As a dietitian, you have a really deep level of nutrition and how your body runs. And so, how do you work effectively with a team of other health professionals while staying within each other's scope of practice? So, working with
Yeah.
personal trainers or physical therapists or different things like that. So,
I think from our side, when it comes to nutrition, is everyone generally a nutrition major here?
we've got a lot of different, right?
Kinesiology too.
Kinesiology and nutrition.
Perfect. Okay. And that's the best thing too. I think to be the best dietitian when it comes to a sports nutrition field, you have to wear many, many hats. There are some hats where I am just the head caterer, the head snack lady, the head orderer. There are some days where I am just focused on how does this schedule work? How do I optimally place students where they need to be at a certain period of time? How do I integrate different kinds of research into day-to-day here? How do I budget correctly? So when it comes to sports nutrition as a whole and working with other fields, you want to be able to be someone who wants to ask questions too, whenever it comes to your expertise as a dietitian, but also someone that is open-minded enough to understand the other fields that they work with too. So if I just had the nutrition hat on 24/7, I believe 99% of my players would not take me seriously because I am not the demographic that they represent here in this facility. So being number one, I'm a woman. So, which women can play football 100% hasn't happened here yet. So I cannot identify with them on the playing field side of things. So how can I identify with a team of athletic trainers, strength and conditioning staff, operations staff, coaching staff, and I would even consider our players a version of that day to day, so that they do look at nutrition as, oh, this is a coachable thing. This is something that these people can identify with based off of their field of knowledge, which is the game of football. So for us, what we like to do here, I have meetings with the heads of strength and conditioning, the head of athletic training within our facility. We talk pretty much every single day about new ideas, new innovations that are happening. They ask me a ton of questions about my expertise. They stay in their lane when it comes to me providing supplements, whether that's vitamin C packets, emergency probiotics. Strength and conditioning allows me to do all the interventions whenever it comes with weight management, whenever it comes to body composition management, and all of the testing as well that goes along with that. And I fall back on them for trying to understand how their interventions might affect my own. So if strength and conditioning staff are going to be training guys a certain way during the off season, I need to know what their training regimen is going to look like. Is it more cardio focused? Is it more strength focused? Are we trying to increase muscle size? Are we doing longer bouts of training, shorter bouts of training? And all of that is really something that I kind of pull towards myself, and I'm able to kind of manipulate and say, okay, well, if they're doing this, then I need to go ahead and do that. If they're doing this, I need to do that. And it's the same thing with athletic training as well. We all come together and work kind of like as a holistic view, and mental health is in there as well too. I want to put that as a touch point, just because I've got to work with guys that don't necessarily understand their own mental health, or even if there are issues, and sometimes there aren't issues that they even believe are issues until they talk to somebody about it. So from our standpoint, being a dietitian, you have your knowledge, you have your ability to kind of like stay within your field and your scope of practice, but don't be closed off to trying to understand everyone else's as well. But hold your own whenever it comes to that too, because I've been in a lot of programs as well where the strength and conditioning staff will, because they get a lot of training in the nutrition side, will try and come in and say, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that. And as long as you understand what you are doing to get these guys headed in the right direction and know your background knowledge and know your understanding, you can be like, yes, absolutely. Let me look into that for you, and let me go ahead and adjust our plans. Let's see if we can do this, or say, hey, I know you want to do that, but this is going to be the end result because of X, Y, and Z. So, and that's the fun part. That's the stuff that I love.
That's awesome. So basically, know your research.
Pretty much that. Know your research and just be able to really focus on that communication side of things. Because even here, they didn't have a dietitian that was really medically focused before I came along. And I wouldn't say I'm 100% medically focused. I just wasn't on the culinary side, because a lot of sports dietitians in the past, that's where they started. They started off making the sandwiches, just making smoothies, and that's how they did their interventions. Versus now we're able to kind of be more dietitians, be on more of the medical side, be on the more sports science side. How do I communicate with my coaches on the number of meals that these players eat during the week? This guy hasn't eaten since this day at this time, like he's not going to have any energy. So I got to tell a coach that. So it really is about knowing your research, but also being able to communicate on a level that all of these other fields will look at you and be like, oh, she understands the game. She knows ball. She gets it.
That's awesome. Okay. So does anybody have y'all we have like a list of questions, but does anybody want to like interject and have any questions? I'd be kind of scared.
I've heard it all, so feel free and ask anything.
You want me to just keep going with the okay. We had a form sent out, so they have like questions
Yeah,
sent.
go for it.
Okay, and then is there any advice you want to give someone who's interested in going into this field?
I would say start reaching out early if y'all have the opportunity. It really is who you know, not what you know, for the majority of trying to get into this field. And if you're able to put your foot in the door and you're able to communicate well, put your pedal to the metal and be a very, very hard worker, that is 99% of this job. And then it is also, yes, the nutrition side of things, but that will push you further in your career and trying to understand how these guys work as well as how these coaches work as a whole. So start out early and don't be afraid of getting rejected as well, like getting emails back saying, oh, no, we don't need anybody right now, or blah, blah, blah. I don't need anyone to help out with this or help out with that. Because there was going to be someone that says yes eventually. And at the end of the day, there are so many emails that people get all the time that I think it's like when entrepreneurs say that they're really afraid of making that first step because they're afraid of failing, never be afraid of that. Only be afraid of you not attempting to head the right direction.
I think you kind of also already touched on this a little bit, but what is something that you really love about your job?
Ooh. I think everyone typically says like when it clicks for a player, like whenever they finally understand it. But my favorite thing is also all the steps in between. So from start to finish, just like how did I get them there? Is there a weird analogy that I provided where I was actually able to identify with a player based off of basically just translating how he felt into what actually was going on? For example, I had one of my players just constantly saying, oh, I have a stomach ache, I have a stomach ache, I have a stomach ache. I just feel tired, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of the interventions that our athletic training staff was doing was just trying to do medication when it came to that, trying to just get them through practice. And the reality is he just wasn't fueling himself. And he had never really eaten anything before practice. He was a freshman, so it's very early on. He's still trying to learn the ways and how everything works whenever it comes to practicing at this level, because it's very different. And so having them understand and come to a realization of, oh, that's how my body feels. That's what I need. This is what I need to do for my body not to feel that way, and I feel better. That is kind of the best feeling in the entire world, along with figuring out that equation, figuring out and understanding, because it's been so long since I've been an athlete and felt that way and not understood how my body felt and why it felt that way, that I kind of like going back and like reworking the equation and just being like, oh, well, dang it, I've got to simplify this just a little bit more because this is the first time that they're living this life. I've got all the perspective in the world when it comes to that athletic performance side and the medical side of things. But these guys are still just trying to figure out their own bodies and how they work and what those signals mean. So that's probably the top one for me.
Okay, and then what is one nutrition fun fact, I guess, that you swear by? So maybe in regards to hydration or whatever, something that you're just like, you absolutely love that fun fact and you think everyone should know it.
I think the big thing that we face every single day here is cramping. It's a huge thing. It's hot. People are sweating. We don't necessarily have the right kind of tools to be able to hydration test every single person on this team. And the biggest thing that I face every single day is those guys that cramp up, but translating that to them on what kind of cramp that is. Because do you guys know kind of like the main reasons behind muscle cramps? There are a few different ones. We've got hydration is obviously the bigger one. So that's fluid, total fluid. There's carbohydrates, there's electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, all of those. But then there's also stress. So stress on the body. If I'm going through the checklist, if I know this guy is hydrated, We did a hydration test on him right before the game. This guy's hydrated, but he's still cramping. He's had plenty of sodium, potassium. He hasn't had too much of those things. He's fueled, so he's got enough carbs in his system and enough carbs in his muscles to be able to get him through the game, and he's energized. That last one is the one that I fall back on. So that's either mental stress, that's either lack of recovery due to a lack of sleep, or it's even just pressure points on the body. We've got a lot of O linemen here that wear knee braces to protect their knees, obviously. And around that area, they typically do tend to cramp up. And that is because we are adding pressure to those muscles in that area and are making your kind of muscles just uncomfortable. And that's going to cause your body to cramp up. And so the way to get rid of those cramps is kind of nasty, but does work, is there's 3 different things. You can use mustard, you can use pickle juice, or you can use this thing that we call a hot shot. It's basically kind of like a cinnamon shot that they take. It's disgusting. It's so bad. But the idea is for it to be disgusting and bad because it is meant to shock your oral factory centers, so your tongue, basically, which basically sends a signal to the rest of your body to shock itself out of a cramp. And that is probably the coolest thing that I like to see happen. Number one, because I know that they're hydrated and I know that they've eaten. I can be like, okay, it's not me. I didn't do it. But number 2, because our body has so many things, so many tips and tricks to be able to kind of work its way out of a stressful situation. So that's a very long answer to a short question, but that's one of the cooler facts that I like to point out.
That was really cool. Okay, so we have a class coming in here at 1. It's not us, it's a different one. So,
Yeah.
Does anybody have any last minute things that they want to ask or anything? Okay, we have one question. You might have to speak really loud.
What
Yeah.
are the qualifications are like mandatory to have?
What are the qualifications that are mandatory to have for your career?
Gotcha. So it really just depends on what that position is. Some positions within even the SEC don't necessarily require you to have certain degrees or certain, like the sports nutrition concentration that comes with after you get your dietitian's credential. For mine in particular, it was just the years of experience, being an RD, having a master's degree. And then I would say knowledge about supplementation, and just kind of like your knowledge within the field, and again, how many years of experience you have. The more that you have within a certain sport, the more apt you are to be able to work within that particular sport. So if I had worked a number of years in the Olympic side, it probably, which is basketball, baseball, golf, all of that, it would have been harder for me to get into this specific field because they are incredibly different on the things that we focus on whenever it comes to the nutrition side and the other items that we do here as well.
Okay, anybody else got anything? Okay. Thank you so much, Miranda. We appreciate you so much. Everyone says thank you.
You're welcome,
awesome.
guys.
We learned so much. This was awesome. We appreciate you taking time. I know you're so busy, but we really appreciate you. And hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy, guys. Appreciate you
Thank
guys. If
you.
y'all have any
Bye.
questions, feel free, reach out. Have a good
Okay,
one.
thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.